Listen to this podcast now
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Why is the middle class shrinking? Why are people facing an affordability crisis while marginalized individuals called informals grow in numbers? Join me as I travel the world, speaking with people living in invisibility, the leaders working to solve it, and uncovering the hard truths shaping our economy and daily reality.
Download all of Red Apple Media's podcasts right now through your favorite podcast platform.
I wrote a little song to remind you, Choice Hotels get you more of the experiences you value. The Cambria Hotel's got it all. A rooftop bar, have a ball. Bring a date, your squad, or even your mom. Book direct at choicehotels.com.
During time, and then tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday, make a note of it. Make a note of it. Mark your calendars. We're going to be talking about, well, this is one of those things I want to get out of the way. But before I forget, this is, of course, Warrior Weekend. We've got my beloved Lynn Shaw from Lynn's Warriors to give you the up-to-the-minute, the best information regarding the war against child predation, which, of course, is not covered by so many in the mainstream media. And I have no idea why. We will talk about that. It blows my mind. I'm not making that up. I'm not exaggerating. But my friends, in case you have just tuned in, if you're wondering what this is about, this is not cookie cutter meta political talk. Think more. I like to think of this as extruder pasta with a bronze die, intellectually speaking, that is. I always say we're more Archie Bell than Art Bell. This is experimental theater of the mind, so they speak, or so they say rather. This is actually designed for the skeptical and the wide awake. None of this late night spooky stuff. I don't know where that comes from. This is not Art Bell. But this is another side of midnight, hence the name. But it blends hard news and conspiracy culture and geopolitics, psychology, media analysis, law, science, history, and the unexplained into one perfect, immersive radio experience. And radio is alive if they allow it to be. Of course, there's UFOs and disclosure. My particular version of this may not be good news for you because I think much of it has been ignored. I think it's been a limited hangout. I don't think anybody's really interested in exposing anything regarding UAPs. Sorry. And this one thing, I'm not going to be a glad-hander. I'm not going to say, oh, this is great. Sometimes news is not great. Artificial intelligence and transhumanism is probably the biggest story of them all. Big tech overreach, digital surveillance, geopolitics, the new world order, alive and well, true crime, behavioral psychology, intel agencies, and covert operations. Are you getting a feel for what this is? Constitutional law, civil liberties, media manipulation and propaganda, paranormal phenomena, and unexplained mysteries. Health, science, skepticism, pop culture through a psychological lens. America First politics. Remember that? America First? Remember that? America First? Whatever happened to that? I don't know. And cultural populism, all of this. The style is completely sui generis. Think rapid-fire intellect, courtroom precision, late-night intimacy, and old-school radio magic. Fused and forged into one unforgettable broadcast. Of course, arcane humor, passion, audience participation. Cannot say that enough. Audience participation. Unlike a lot of folks who oftentimes overlook the audience, I love the audience. I think you are phenomenal. I think you are the reason why people love to hear talk radio, especially people who don't know what they're talking about. Oh, that's right. Sometimes the abstruse, some people don't know exactly where they are, what they're talking about. People who will call in right away without any idea of what we've even talking about. People who just feel like for some reason they want to say something. And I welcome them. I love them. No matter how inane, germane, or insane, it does not matter. There's so much to talk about. How about this game 2 of the Knicks? I'm not even going to pretend that I'm a sports fan, but I do find it interesting, the tribalism. I do find it interesting. This is juvenile. This is bread and circuses, baby. This is so perfect. And for once, maybe there's a sense of people are seemingly coordinated in some collective idea, and it's good. I think it's wonderful. Again, I've always imagined trying to explain sports to somebody from another planet and to tell them that this is something which is so inherently human. We don't know why people do it or why people love it, but they do, and it's wonderful and it's great, so long as people don't overturn cars or show violence as a way of what's happening. Here's some news during the week which I found interesting. Stephen King, who was demented, he's a radical lefty. I mean, with all due respect to the radical left, he's an idiot. He's just, for no other particular way of saying it, he's an idiot. But he is, of course, one of America's most famous storytellers, and he believes that humanity may soon confront the reality that we are not alone. Gee, do you think? While Stephen King is speaking from intuition rather than from scientific certainty, the timing of this is noteworthy, as government agencies and military officials and researchers still continue discussing unidentified aerial phenomena with unprecedented seriousness. What happens if disclosure arrives? Are we prepared for the religious, philosophical, and political implications? Now, again, I'm looking around this. This is, if ever there is a, well, how do I say this? I am absolutely, positively, 100% sure that we are, of course, not alone. Not because of the Drake equation, not because of anything along those lines, but I just think the evidence has been there for millennia, as long as we have traipsed. However, the people in charge of introducing the news are not going to allow it. Up to and including Neil deGrasse Tyson, that clown, the Bill Nye, the science guy, who, by the way, is pretty much evaporated. He's kind of gone the way of Ben Shapiro. Here today, gone tomorrow. But I do not believe for a moment, that you are ever going to be allowed any proof. A lot of the proof they don't have, but by the way, a lot of the proof is being held not by the president. Do you think President Trump has the highest security clearance? Not even close. Are people under any type of duty to disclose to him reality? Not even close. That shocks people, but it's true. Also this week, researchers continue discovering that infants process far more information than previously believed. New studies suggest that babies may respond to sophisticated musical structures and patterns long before they can speak. And the findings raise fascinating questions about human development, creativity, and whether the foundations of intelligence are in fact established much, much earlier than experts once thought. I have said this, I have advocated this since day one. Musical proficiency is the language of all humanity. Teach kids music. Teach them the mathematics of music, and they will benefit from the beginning. I believe that kids have, I don't know if they say it was the sound perhaps of the mother's aorta that sloshes and not transects, but basically is adjacent to the babies, and even their rudimentary hearing capacities understand the basics of rhythm. It's a wonderful thought. How about this? During the week, Nantucket Church cancels 4th of July. Listen to this. A church's decision to cancel a traditional Independence Day observance because of concerns over political controversy highlights the growing tension between patriotism and politics. What was once a large, unifying civil celebration is now increasingly viewed through partisan lenses. They said that this may in fact be too white. I don't even know what that means. I have no idea of what that means. The funniest story this week, and bless his heart, the president, bless his heart, was when I heard that Milli Vanilli had declined to participate for reasons, I think, political pressure. Now, Milli Vanilli, I know Mr. Lee and I understand far too much what that is. That became almost a punchline. And for younger folks, they don't know what that means. But Milli Vanilli, of course, you know, they were the disgraced, lip-syncing, kind of a manufactured group. And one individual, I believe, exited stage left a little early at his own hand. It was sad. They had to give back awards because they were caught lip syncing. Which, by the way, if you consider auto-tune and a variety of other folks who do this, lip syncing is not at all rare. But the point is, the moiety, the half, the remaining member, after, and I don't know how he was going to appear by himself, or maybe with somebody else stepping in. Now he has stepped out of the Celebration 250 because, of course, it's President Trump. This does not seem to be a stellar group so far. I don't know even who's playing. I have no idea. But it does not seem to be A-list, and that's sad. That's sad because you would think at the time of the celebration of the formation of our country, you would think that all of that would be put aside, but it's not. Next, the $12 trillion creative economy faces AI disruption. Ladies and gentlemen, artificial intelligence is now, as you know, transforming industries at breakneck speed, breathtaking speed. But the creative sector may be among the most vulnerable. Writers, musicians, filmmakers, artists, designers, even board operators and radio engineers are confronting a future where algorithms can replicate aspects of their work in seconds. The debate centers on whether AI will become a powerful tool that enhances creativity or a disruptive force that undermines millions of livelihoods. You have not even begun to understand what this is about. And I love this story. Legendary filmmaker Quentin Tarantino has never been shy about criticizing contemporary Hollywood. His latest observations focus on what many believe is a decline in originality, risk-taking, and artistic craftsmanship. Mr. Tarantino argues that franchises and corporate formulae increasingly dominate filmmaking. His comments reignited a debate about whether Hollywood sucks and whether it has sacrificed creativity in favor of predictable profits and, dare I say, political correctness, as it were. And if you also think about this, look at the number of people, look at the number of folks who would naturally represent let's say the usual standard distribution of trans children in any population. Yet, for reasons no one can figure out exactly, they actually represent, oddly enough, they represent an inordinate percentage of the trans community. Think about this. If, let's say, 1 to 2%, I don't know what the figure is, of trans, whatever that is, community, if it's 1 to 2%, let's say in the population as a whole, how can something like the entertainment community have such an inordinately high percentage of offspring who are themselves trans and non-binary? Are we suggesting or intimating or hinting that perhaps maybe those parents were paid off, kind of coerced, cajoled, forced, perhaps maybe persuaded to announce or to let people think of their children perhaps as being trans when they in fact are not? Interesting pun there. The answer is absolutely. Because today Hollywood is soulless. Absolutely, positively, 100% absent soul and heart. And that will be one of the reasons why they will be hoisted by their own petard. Our number is 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. Coming up, Lynn Shaw, my beloved better half, from Lynn's Warriors as we do Weekend Warrior Series to let you know what exactly is done or not being done in the fight against child predation. This is Lionel with you on Another Side of Midnight. That's right, my friend. Lionel with you on Another Side of Midnight. And that music means only one thing. It is time for Warrior Wednesday with Lynn Shaw from lynswarriors.org. Full disclosure, she is my better half, my wife. You can reach Lynn's Warriors at lynswarriors.org. Lynn's Warriors on YouTube, and at Lynn's_Warriors on X. Tonight we need to talk about something that shocks almost everyone when they first hear it. Now listen to this. New York is currently the only state in America where an adult who purchases a 15, 16, or 17-year-old child for sex may face only a misdemeanor rather than a felony for solicitation and the like. Now let that sink in. An adult who purchases a child for sex is not automatically facing felony consequences under this loophole. Survivors, advocates, parents, and child protection organizations have spent years fighting to change this. The New York State Senate has now passed. Well, let me just bring her to the phone because we need to clarify this. Lynn Shaw, welcome again to Warrior Wednesday. What is the status regarding this as of today? Because I know there was some confusion regarding the actual legislation.
Well, good morning or good evening. It depends. We're doing Warrior Weekend right now. And what happened with this bill? It reached the Assembly. And today was the last day, right before the session's over, where we had advocates. We had people on the phones night and day just canvassing, contacting Speaker Hesty's office, saying, what is going on here? We are the only state that is allowing this. Nobody understands why, because we've asked everybody, including those in the government, those who are supposed to know why this was even allowed with a 15, 16, or 17-year-old. I mean, these are minors. Anything with a minor is against the law. Sex trafficking, sexual abuse, assault, right? Nobody has the answers for us. I just want to say one thing. I wish the public had the same enthusiasm for these issues we talk about, which are critical and crucial to safety of American kids and families, as I witnessed tonight with the Knicks, with the screaming, with the horn honking, with the taking to the streets. You know, I'm high up, and I heard so much screaming. Even an hour ago, people were screaming.
Yep.
Yet they don't. But let me just tell you what happened today. So there was this deluge of, we didn't let them go all week, contacting. Got to get this to a vote. Got to get this. Now, it passed out of the Senate. And I don't want to get into there's so many rules and regulations. It's got to go to this committee, that committee. It ended up today passing into what they call a third reading. And so people are saying it passed. But I'm here to say there has been no official announcement that it has passed. So I'm very hesitant to say, yay. It looks very good. It's gotten to this point today, and I totally think it's gotten to this point because of the public outcry, the advocates, the survivors who pushed so hard and said this cannot be. And so it does, again, look very good that it will pass and become law like all the other states. But you know what? I'm just going to wait until we get the official announcement coming out of Albany with this.
Now, this is just an incredible aspect. The part of us which is fascinating is, why are so many people surprised when they learn about this? You know, just as an aside, this week we went to a very, very wonderful event. And you could describe that in greater detail. And whenever the subject came up regarding trafficking in particular, among other aspects, there's this belief that somehow this is only done and only occurs elsewhere. Or many people, I think, perhaps might have been, habituated, perhaps, maybe by virtue of what happened with the Epstein. What is your take on this in terms of the problem that you deal with every day in trying to to kind of like guide public awareness or focus?
Wake up, America. We are beyond even the awareness phase. We are in the depths of hell. I mean this because I have seen what is happening in the last 1 to 2 years. I am seeing now, Lionel, every day, things being thrown, from Washington, from Albany, from the predators, from the traffickers, AI, all of the big tech CEOs, converging on Washington, basically running Washington. That is my opinion, I'm saying, pouring all this money into everything. So a lot of things are being overlooked. As far as the public, a couple of things. No judgment, but a little bit of judgment, because people have to really wake up. They can no longer, it's ugly, it's dark, nobody wants to believe it. But in the meantime, we know that over half the kids are approached online sexually. We also know about 45% of those approached will go out and try to meet a stranger in real time. I mean, this is an American crisis. I think it is just, they just are in disbelief. And trafficking, people really don't understand that word. It's kind of in one ear, out the other. And when I explain it to people and really break it down, they'll always say to me, which they did this week, so the children are trafficked here, they come from other countries. And I'm like, no, they're probably the house across the street from you or down the street. It's in every community. It's in every town, city, and rural area in America. It is fueled by the internet, by online, and people have to wake up. So I was even shocked this week being out. We were in a major mall this week, and I was talking to a lot of people, right, walking around with kids, without kids, grandparents, parents, and they just are entirely shocked, and every single person said to me, I do not know this goes on here. So we do have more groups. We do have Lynn's Warriors. We do have a lot more media attention. Thank goodness for you and for the Cats Roundtable every Sunday giving me a platform to talk about this. But the American public has to start taking some responsibility, and I'm tired of saying it's dark and it's ugly, so nobody wants to deal with it, and they better wake up, because they do wake up when something happens to their child or a member of their family. Then they're looking for help. So we want to get in there. We want to have education, prevention, intervention, and help. It is happening all over America and only escalating.
When you see women in their 40s, 50s, older, recounting and describing how they themselves were groomed, pulled, activated, and not, dragooned, impressed. I don't know what the particular term is, but oftentimes by virtue of a boyfriend or someone who tells this young girl, and that's why it's critical that girls know this, that they are, if they really love their boyfriend, what is it called, the Romeo syndrome, whatever.
Romeo effect, love bombing.
Yes. But explain kind of how this works, just to not to demystify it, but it makes it make so much, and also explain why does this mean so much to family members and survivors.
Well, I want to start with, we cannot do our jobs, I should say. We have multiple jobs at the Warriors, right? There's multiple issues. All of these issues are interconnected. You can talk about domestic violence, intersects tremendously with human trafficking, with labor trafficking, which we do not talk about or focus on in this country at all, pretty much, right? It's always sex trafficking, because I think media, for the most part, and people, there's something strange, like that word sex. I'm not kidding, Lionel. Like that makes them wake up a little bit or something like that. But listen, I have not been abused. I have not been trafficked. I've had a wonderful life. So we need survivors at the table that can talk to us, can tell us if they want, right? Because a lot of them don't want to talk, and then a lot do. We call them survivor leaders. They guide us in what they went through, how we should be looking at these different loopholes, how they were dealt with law enforcement, the justice system, the public as a whole, housing, all kinds of things, in the name of education, in the name of closing these loopholes so we can do better by our kids and our teens. I always say our future American adults and leaders, where are we going to be in 5 years? They understand survivors, the devastating, and I want to repeat this, the devastating lifelong impact of sexual exploitation. You don't get saved like in the movies. You don't get rescued and your life is la la la, flowers and candy and you're all fine. You know what? It is a lifelong trauma. So we know, and survivors know, these are not victimless crimes. And many survivors have been behind what is going on in Albany with this Bill 9214. I want to put the number out there, A9214 in the Assembly, because they know that stronger penalties, accountability, sends a clearer message that children are not commodities to be bought and sold. Can you believe we have to talk about selling children? And that's another thing. It reminds me. The media a lot, the public a lot will say sex worker. They'll refer to a child, a minor, sex worker.
Yes.
They'll say child prostitute. I'm here to remind everybody a child cannot consent. And that would be 18 and under. A child cannot be called a prostitute. They cannot consent. So they are forced into this labor. This is human trafficking. So everybody should change their lingo, change, the words they're using, and get it straight. A child cannot be a sex worker. A child cannot be a prostitute. A child cannot consent. But you know what? Survivors and advocates, survivor advocates I should call them, they really have been at the forefront sharing. We have to remember, they're sharing the most painful parts of their lives, their stories, and they put themselves out there to educate the public, lawmakers, about the need for stronger protections. And I think everybody should really, stand up, listen to them, and understand that these are the realities in 2026, and we've got to start taking action. And that, everybody is affected by this. And also, this is, and we can talk about this another time, all of this leads to a national security threat. So if people do not understand about sex trafficking, maybe they'll understand if we frame it as a national security threat and what goes on with the economy and the cartels and how the cartels are at the forefront, not only with drugs, but with selling of people and especially children these days. So there's a lot going on interconnected here.
It's funny, whenever we talk about, by the way, we're talking to Lynn Shaw from lynswarriors.org, Lynn's Warriors on YouTube, Lynn's Warriors on, lynswarriors.org. Right, Lynn's Warriors on YouTube. Right? And also on X at Lynn's_Warriors. I want to bring also kind of a circle back a little bit, as we are ready for this absolute traffic in media and this FIFA World Cup explosion. As we speak, traffickers are getting ready to be able to have teams, their wares, there's another team out there, teams ready to satisfy people who are going to be moving in, coming into the U.S., who, by the way, believe that this is a free-for-all country where the rules don't apply. That's one consideration, and you're dealing very closely with law enforcement. Then you have just regular family members who are affected. And then, to make it even more complicated, individuals who find themselves in the grips of just this weird, strange pull that the media and digital luring takes place. Kids who are committing suicide. When you get into this, and most people have no idea. If they say, I want to, and I've heard them say this to you, I want to, help you. I want to volunteer. And you always say, are you sure? Do you really know what you're talking about? Isn't it, from a personal point of view, and I know the answer, but isn't it just overwhelming when you see what is being done to kids on a regular basis? You wonder, do we share the same DNA with these people?
First of all, I want to say something. When I woke up one day and turned to you years ago and said, I want to be a warrior, and you didn't know what I was even talking about because I had this kind of vision in my sleep, because I realized everybody must become a warrior in their own home and community. That's where it starts. So I named everything Lynn's Warriors because that's what I train everybody and educate. You've got to be in your own home, your own community, with your own family and friends. Let's put that aside for a minute. The work goes, I'm going 20 hours a day. I am passionate. I will never stop mentoring young people, bringing them, into the fold correctly, all of this stuff, right? But sometimes, and I think you've seen me do it, I stop because if there's something about a baby, right, and I say, how morally in America or anywhere, but I work in America. That is my focus. Right here at home is where we need the help, okay? And I say, how can these people walking down the street, who's abusing children? Or I count children even sometimes on the street, and I get to 8, because it's like 1 in 8, 1 in 7 children are abused. And I say, that child's abused. And I say, how can this be in our country? And we keep talking about it. There are solutions, okay? We need the resources. We need to let law enforcement do their jobs, be armed with the tech. There are there is technology that can help with all of this. Just think about searching these, URLs, searching that used to take man hours and hours and hours, right, of this manpower to keep doing. They can do in minutes now. And yet we have to fight because law enforcement tells me all the time, we don't have the resources for the technology. It's the most ridiculous thing to root out these people hurting our babies and our children, thus hurting our families, our society, our country. And it's just allowed to go on. Why do we have to fight so hard? And a reminder, everybody, that this is bipartisan. It really does not belong. We talk about Albany and Washington and all that. It belongs to no political party. Everybody should get on board and standing in the streets like they did tonight for the Knicks and say, we're not having this anymore. We are not allowing our kids to be abused, and everybody's closing their eyes. That could create change, okay? Starting with giving budgets and resources to law enforcement who could help with this. And let's talk about this World Cup, because this has been with law enforcement 3 years in the making. When I met with New Jersey state troopers in Washington, and they told me, we're working on this now, I said, really? They said, we have to prepare. And by the way, they are being called out for being, New York, New Jersey, the best prepared, from what I'm hearing, across the country. And understanding, they told me, people are going to flock in from all these other countries, and their thinking is, it is such a free-for-all here. We can do anything we want to any kid, any woman, any man. We can steal, we can do drugs, we can sexually exploit. That is the thinking now about our America. Do you know, Lionel, how shameful that is? How shameful. So I just want to say, law enforcement is prepared for this. We've got the Airbnb, we've got the ride shares, we've got the hotels, the motels, we've got the boots on the ground. So I think there is so much more awareness, and that reminds me, if you are going to any of these matches, if you see something, if you just think, be very aware, everybody, when you go in bathrooms. That's where a lot of exchanges happen, okay? You will not be, held responsible. Go up to a police officer, somebody you see in security, and report it right away. Better to be wrong, okay? You kind of know in your gut when something doesn't look right, because people tell me constantly, I thought that was something, but I didn't want to get involved. We must, because, again, we even have an uptick in kids, teens being snatched in broad daylight off the streets across America. Now, nobody's really talking about that one. I feel like I'm the only one talking about it, where now somebody will say, I want a 15-year-old blonde girl, and a strange car will drive up, somebody's walking home from school, and try to force them into the car. So we got to teach our kids now, like stranger danger, and I kid you not. Right. You got to scream your head off, you got to kick, and you got to run. The screaming will alarm them. Most of the time they'll take off and look, it's very sad for me to say this, a more vulnerable victim. So everybody has to wake up. We are surrounded by this, okay? And people don't have that luxury anymore, closing their eyes and saying, not my child. My child would never do that. That won't happen to our household, because you know what? It's happening in the poor, vulnerable neighborhoods. It's happening in the rich, what we'll consider rich neighborhoods, okay? It is happening all over, and the predators are laughing at us about it.
I also want to, by the way, we're talking again to Lynn Shaw from lynswarriors.org, Lynn's Warriors on YouTube, and Lynn's_Warriors on X. The other night, we were at an event, and I found this is very interesting. We were at an event involving child trafficking. And I was talking to a woman, very, very nice, very intelligent, and we were just chatting. And I'm still thinking about this. I made this statement without any exceptions, as I am wont to do. I speak very forcefully regarding things that I believe in. And I said, it's very interesting. I said, when will people realize that they should not be putting pictures of their family members on social media? And this woman looked at me like, said, what? Yes. I said, no pictures. Well, what age? I said, never. And I said, well, what do you mean? I said, let me see if I can explain this. Why do you want to put pictures of your, and this is where the look came. Why do you want to have pictures of your child on social media? Why? And they said, the child can't consent. And it's because I realized because people don't even think about it. You mentioned this one time, and you haven't talked about this in a while, but there were people who actually would say, go get this child. I know where the child lives. I know everything about the child. In fact, if you do any amount of due diligence, you could find out the child's nickname, the new pet, the fact that the brother lost his front teeth. So if you were to lure, groom, you know about things. Even family members who put the names of their graduating students, their children, on the front lawn. Tabitha, Michaela, congratulations. Oh, you got a girl there, 17 or 18. And they look at me like I'm sick. I'm thinking, no, you're a fool. You don't know how dangerous this is.
Listen, the public has been fooled and brainwashed. That's what I'm going to say, because remember, it started with MySpace. Then we went into Facebook, connect with family and friends and fellow universities and all that stuff. It started out very cute, right? It was a novelty. Then comes along in 2008 or so the iPhone. Everybody, every kid wanted an iPhone for a gift. The grandparents were buying them. The parents were buying them. We didn't think twice. I say we collectively, America, okay? We didn't know, okay? We've been lured into this. We've been fooled into this. But here's the thing. Now we know. Now we have 30 years later, because everything started in about 1996, we have studies. We have, teachers coming out. We have mental health professionals and doctors and psychologists and psychiatrists. We have all of this information, yet it's getting worse. That's the part, Lionel, I do not understand. I do not understand. And the thing about the pictures is so horrible, because right now with AI, virtually, and I got 3 reports today, and these happen to be men, and actually they happen to have decent jobs, and they are creating AI, this child sexual abuse material, CSAM, we call it, right? We don't say kiddie porn anymore, everybody. That's over with. It's much more descriptive to say child sexual abuse material, okay? So these 3 men, again, seemingly, kind of normal and good jobs, were creating this content and using AI and taking kids' pictures off the internet. So, we've given it away. Mm-hmm. So it's time. It's overdue to take it back. Do not put pictures of children online. You don't know those. Once kids will say to me even, I deleted it. And I'm like, no, once it's there, it is never gone. It's in that cloud. Somebody has taken it. People have to wake up to this. This is, and I also think because it has become so normalized, all this sexual stuff now, and sites like OnlyFans, just everybody's become habituated. People who wouldn't even try this stuff, this is what I think, are now trying it. Again, because there's no consequences, pretty much. There's no accountability, which is why in New York State, not to be a felony, to rape a 15-year-old girl, who creates these laws? So the only way you can have accountability is the public. Groups like Lynn's Warriors, we push back. We don't let them get away with it. We educate the public, but we can't do it alone. We need everybody to help us. You don't want it to be your daughter or son. We don't even talk about the boys and men in sex trafficking, because it's like that's kind of a no-no. It's like they're embarrassed. They don't come forward. That's a real uptick in all of that. So society as a whole, look at the way we're treating our people. Who thought you could buy and sell human beings? We have more slavery today in the United States than any other time in history, and it's getting worse. And people just don't want to recognize it. I didn't answer your question before. What we have also is this Romeo effect. So a lot of girls and young women, and women also, are, getting fooled by a boyfriend, seeking love, seeking attention, and they think they found the perfect mate, because they tell me this. It's the same story over and over again, and it could be good for a month or so, and then it's always the same thing. If you love me, you'll just do this once. My friend likes you. will you just do this? I'm a little short on the car payment, a little short on the rent. And because this girl or woman thinks she's in love, she does it. And she knows it's wrong, but she does it, okay? And then they get sucked into this abuse and trafficking. And that is a very common thing. And we have boys as young as 14 doing this to girls their own age because they're learning everything on the internet. They're seeing everything. And it's not even the kids' fault because we have the algorithms. We know from whistleblowers. We know from the studies that have come out, the internal memos from these big tech companies and all of them. We talk about Meta a lot. Lionel, it is every one of them. They are feeding our kids the algorithms for pornography, for all of this. So the kids are seeing all of this, right? And that's where we have to draw the line and we have to say enough. And if that means a piece of legislation, we are not taking away anybody's freedoms because people fight me on this all the time, First Amendment rights. Where are the rights for children? That's what I want to know. So if it takes a piece of legislation like the Kids Online Safety Act, Senate version 1748, that's what we have to do. And that's what our president has to work on. And that's what we should be talking about, not all these other issues. I'm sorry, I know people like sports, the Knicks and things like that. But my goodness, that we have to keep talking about this and people are denying it or say that doesn't happen or Lynn, you're lying. Absolutely not. So we invite everybody to join us. You can write to us at the Warriors, get some information, learn about this, talk to your kids. Find out what's going on in their schools. Ask their teachers, what are you teaching with AI? What are the resources you're using? People have to wake up. We're into prevention now, intervention, okay? So educate yourself. It's really educate yourself and talk to your kids about trafficking. It is here. You can't, people will say, I don't want to open up a can of worms. They'll start looking at pornography. I'm like, they're looking at it already because it's on their devices.
Exactly. In fact, they don't call it pornography.
Share survivor stories and advocacy efforts because get involved in initiatives. Every community has something going on, and we'll be happy. Write to me, lynn@lynswarriors.org. I will direct you what's happening in your neighborhood where you can get involved. It ultimately, Lionel, comes down to one question. How serious are we in America about protecting our children? Survivors have spoken. Families have spoken. Advocates have spoken. The Senate has acted now on this Assembly Bill 9214. We're hoping it does get passed. I think it will. Everybody's talking about it because we believe every child deserves protection, dignity, and the opportunity to grow up free from exploitation. Kids are not commodities. They're not products. Children are not for sale.
Lynn Shaw from Lynn's Warriors, lynswarriors.org, on YouTube at Lynn's Warriors, on an X, or what we used to call Twitter, at Lynn's_Warriors. Thank you per usual. Thank you. Again, you make Warrior Weekend so special. I love you and I thank you, and we will talk again.
Thank you, Lionel. I love you too. Thank you.
More coming up on another side of midnight with everything and anything. Please join us. I cannot wait to hear from you. We'll go to the phones next, whether you like it or not. More coming up. Stay tuned.
Talk to me.
Alrighty, Lionel with you. Our number is 800-848-9222. Years ago, there was a story. You've heard it about Mahatma Gandhi to some, who said you could tell about a society by the way they treat their animals. And I thought, oh, how quaint. I think there's a corollary to that. I think we should have come first. You could tell about a society by how they treat their children. And if that's true, we are doomed. We are depraved. Whenever we talk about this, people love to say, we're good people. Man is basically good. No, it's not. The people that you consider to be good, there are some, but for the most part, most people are just not bad. They're not good. They don't go out of their way to be benevolent, beneficent, charitable, philanthropic. Most people just don't do bad things. And that's a big deal. Let's go quickly to Dave in West Pennsylvania. Get ready for this one, my friend. Get ready.
Lionel, hi. Did you and Walter Sterling receive my postcard in the mail? I want to get into other things. It was sent to, Red Apple Media up there.
Dave, first of all, I want to thank you so much. Because, and I appreciate it, I want you to call me again because, Dave, nobody can kill the course of a show better than you. They call you the assassin. Thank you, Dave. Call me again. You can go in and literally, in just a couple of sentences, basically rip out the very fun, the excitement, the focus, the plan, the course, in just one abstruse reference that no one, and I mean literally no one, cares about. And I thank you for that. It takes a real talent. In fact, you're good. You're the desiccator. You suck out and dry out everything that is of any, put it this way, you take the moisture of excitement out of the range of this. And I thank you, my friend. Fantastic. You're very good. Now, coming up, we have so much to discuss regarding the world of AI and also the decline of our civilization. Also, Scott Pelley and the hubris, this hubristic, unearned certitude that these people have regarding such relics as 60 Minutes, which went out when Mike Wallace died. Isn't it fascinating how this is changing, and also how the most important aspect, what we used to be so proud of, we were so proud of years ago, of Hollywood, and now it's just reduced to nothing. We'll talk about that, and also so many other things in terms of the depravity of human beings, in addition to other things as well, and your calls. And by the way, if you can think of a way to destroy the focus and the direction of a show as good as our first, or as well as our first caller, please do give it a shot at 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. We'll also talk about this. For the first person who can explain this quiz, what is bread and circenses? What is the concept of bread, panem et circenses? Who said it? What does it mean? And what is the relationship of it vis-a-vis the various goings-on as to the Knicks? It's a very interesting concept. And also, is America First a pipe dream? Does that mean anything? And is it wrong for a society to say, hey, us first, then the rest of the world next? Oh, there's so much stuff. So much stuff. And I have preparing all week, taking some of the greatest questions and putting them together to explain to you how there are stories that have been going on in the world that nobody is talking about. And I think one of the reasons why, and I think is very simple, is that most news programming is really written and deals with maybe an 8th grade level at the best. They are minimalistic. They are psychologically dense and intellectually vapid. And I think that explains everything. Oh, we have so much, my friends. 800-848-9222. And as I said, we love your calls. Oh, my God, do we love them? Because they're the spark. They're the reason God made Oklahoma, as the great David Frizzell said. 800-848-9222. We're coming up on the other side, on another side of midnight with me, Lionel. Stay tuned. Lionel with you, and this is hour number two of these thing of ours, another side of midnight. 800-848-9222. By the way, extra credit for the worst caller of the evening, and I think we have a winner so far. I think we can just stop the contest altogether. I think we have a winner. You know, during the week, I keep track of all these wonderful stories. I'm gonna bring this up, and I'm gonna bring this up, and I end up not bringing up really much of anything because there's just so much out there. And again, the reason why I cannot listen to conventional news platforming is because it's so inane because of the stuff that's really, I mean, absolutely cataclysmic in terms of our society. And I'm not trying to say that to be exaggerating. But again, people are also, the way the news media treats you is like you're in the 8th grade. The stories are stupid, they're lame, and they're written by people who don't really know much of anything. And one of the things which is very interesting is the idea of AI. And nobody really is, they're not even approximating how that thing works. And this past week we had this, oh my God, this pompous, this arrogant, this bombast, this news dastard, Scott Pelley, who thinks for some reason that he calls the shots, that 60 Minutes belongs to him, that there is a 60 Minutes, that people care about 60 Minutes. I'm not trying to discount it, but if you go through, if you think you're going to make headway by regurgitating and resuscitating things that have been around, and if your idea of programming is just to reiterate nostalgia, stuff that listen, I thought there was some stuff years ago that was kind of groovy, but I'm not going to put it on a radio station now because it has no relevance. And I love give you an example. I love hypocrisy. Right now, as you know, one of the biggest stories that's going, we'll put it this way, what's going on in the world of news platforming on the internet compared to conventional is night and day. Night and day. And one of the stories was they had this Candace Owens, who was, of course, the firebrand. Excuse me. She went to Russia with her husband, St. Petersburg, and lo and behold, she was invited to this St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. It's kind of like the Russian version of Davos. And everybody from all over the world was there. Every conceivable country and culture. It was incredible. And so articulate. So, my God, it made me cry because when I hear, and I'm not mentioning any names, but when I hear a lot of the people who represent our government from time to time, they sound like morons. Sad to say, it breaks my heart. There was a time when we had just people, just regular politicians who every time they spoke, it wasn't that they were stentorian, but they were just far more intelligent. In any event, so they said, of course, we have this ridiculous, defined, in fact, she defined it as a Cold War hangover, this Russophobic nonsense, when people continue to refer to Russia as somehow they're evil, the evil empire. Say, enough with this. What are you talking about? What century are you in? And we're not going to get to the bottom of anything if we keep with this Boris and Natasha nonsense. So anyway, the question was there's lunatic by the name of Laura Loomer. I mean, absolutely just non-compos mentis. She suggested that somehow she should be arrested by, I don't know, Homeland Security or whatever. Anyway, so I, in my particular additional circle, said, when Sean Penn went to Ukraine and brought his Oscar, I don't know if he left it with him or just brought him to show it, brought his Oscar to meet with Zelensky, that coke-addled thug who, by the way, has drained us from what exactly? I have no idea. A man, by the way, who was created by a fellow named Kolomoisky, whose claim to fame was, and let me see if I can say this in a nice way, keeping in mind this is a family show, playing the keyboards with his phallus. At least this was the act. Whether he was or wasn't, different story. This is the low end. This is the person that Sean Penn went and bowed and scraped before, along with Ben Stiller. And many, many people believe that it was part and parcel of this old U.S. aid debt that he owed regarding his dubious work in Haiti, along with, interestingly enough, Oprah. Remember Oprah and her school. And speaking of, how about the orphanage that Erica Kirk was responsible with in Romania? And you see a lot of people, and I'm not one of them, but some people suggest that look no further than orphanages to find the heart of trafficking. And again, let other people decide that. I'm just telling you. So nobody ever talked about that. Nobody ever asks any questions about what are we doing. And the ultimate story was, this is the one that absolutely got me, Jane Fonda. Remember the story of Hanoi Jane. Remember this, Hanoi Jane. She goes to Vietnam, meets with NVA, and she came in, rumors have it, suggested that she was given notes from POWs to give or to bring home, or to either let their family members know. And what did she do? It was reported and heavily rumored that she turned them in. This was Jane Fonda. And now she is the darling of the left. Nobody suggested charging her with treason. Nobody. This is a woman. This is her 1972 trip to North Vietnam. Let me just repeat this. A number of former American POWs, military personnel, later alleged that prisoners gave Fonda secret messages, slips of paper or appeals to bring back to their families. And what she allegedly turned those materials over to North Vietnamese authorities. And this is, they say some of these never happened, or they weren't substantiated, because they do everything they can to protect her, to defend her. Nobody said anything. The hypocrisy that we have in this country is incredible. I don't know about you, but I'm of the firm belief that when it comes to anything involving foreign policy, one of the reasons why we do what we do is because we don't know anything about each other. It's just another example. And if I wanted to go and learn things, where do I go? Have you ever heard anybody in the world of conventional news explaining PSYOPs to you? How intel agencies work? Of course not. Are you kidding me? You know the no kings of these ridiculous, I don't even know what these events, these parades. They are rumored to be and suspected to be PSYOPs, psychological operations. And the reason why we know this is because nothing is ever asked. There are no demands that are made. Nothing. There are no demands. And what's really interesting about this whole thing is that whenever you see this, whenever when people march and they don't do anything to say, we want this, or this, and it's not made, the idea is merely to stir discontent, because the notion of the PSYOP, the limited hangout, all of these aspects. Here we go. Here's some other great news. This just absolutely kills me. The news that is out there, is incredible. Did you know that, this is important, and I mentioned this before, that this Nantucket church cancels the 4th of July celebration in political protest because of their own whiteness? Do you think we're ever going, forget artificial intelligence, what about just intelligence? There's a story this week that said that AI is escaping human control. Bots are now outnumbering people online. Autonomous laboratories are outsourcing work to robots. Feds are taking equity stakes in top AI companies. And then we get into this one. They're saying that the notion of men are failing at manhood due to financial strains. What does this mean? What does this even mean? Also, why is young America trending socialist? Why? I hear more people lament and talk here locally about Zoran Mamdani. Oh, the jokes are just plentiful, and many of them are deserved. And they mock him, and he's this, and he's that. Yeah, I understand. He's a lefty, or he's a Marxist, or a communist, or whatever it is. And he's not. He's a welfare policy. He's not smart enough to be any of the. There's no planned economy. It doesn't even address the basic elements of socialism. It doesn't even get close to it. I mean, if people think doing what he's doing is socialism, you don't know what socialism is. It's even less than that. In fact, I know people who are socialists who actually despise having him being called one of them. The point of the matter is simply this. We need to sit down and ask young people, why do you like him? And recently, I had the chance to be around a very, very talented young lady, very smart, very go-getter, great in school, terrific academics, just wants to go out and, just really be either law or politics or public policy. I thought, this is terrific. And I asked, what do you think of Zoran Mamdani? Love him. Really, why? He's so charismatic. He's so dynamic. And I love he's got new ideas. Okay. Now, I could have said, what are you, stupid? I could have used the R word. I could have done a lot of things. What are you, nuts? But I thought, no. I said, tell me more. And as I was talking, I said, what policy has he or any of his particular democratic socialists or whatever, what have they ever said, any policy that he has ever said that you find the most interesting or productive or hopeful or promising? Couldn't answer the question. And I didn't go in for the kill. I didn't say, listen, you stupid kid, you don't know any better. I said, what about free buses? Remember that one? Yeah. Whatever happened to that? How about free food? Remember the stores? You know they're not free food, right? Yeah. What about pushing the people out? The billionaires of New York City. What does that do? Look what they're doing look at what Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey might break all records for this. My point is simply this. It is critical for us as the adults in the room to train, to explain to the future. This is what you need to. Some of these ideas that you might consider to be antediluvian, archaic, ossified, whatever it is, they make sense. And let me explain this to you, especially if you want to go out in the world. That's what we need to do. When I return from this commercial interruptus, we're going to be going to the calls and taking your calls. And again, make them good. Make us weep and make us think. This is Lionel with you on Another Side of Midnight. Already Lionel with you. Pardon me about that. Our number is 800-848-9222. Still trying to get over the whole notion of Milli Vanilli. Milli Vanilli. Who came up with Milli Vanilli? Is this a joke? Seriously, I was watching a so-called Breaking Points or whatever. It's very good show on the internets, as it were. And this fellow named Sagar and Jetty, he never heard of Milli Vanilli. I'm thinking, dear God, it's not that I'm that old, but how can you not have heard of certain things? That's the point that gets me. In any event, my friend, that's the best part about having lived during these wonderful times. And let's go back to the phones. Let's see if we can muster up a call that's somewhat even remotely lucid. Let's go to Mark in New York. Mark, you're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Yeah, Mark in Aurora, Illinois, but that's okay. Bread and Circuses was the title of a Star Trek episode from the original series, and it was based on a planet that had 20th century technology coupled with a Roman lifestyle. And when I looked up Bread and Circuses, it was called a metonymic phrase, which means the meaning over the meaning. And it means to superficially appease. And the Star Trek episode, that would fit that, because Captain
Now,
Merritt
I don't want to interrupt, which I am. But you refer to Bread and Circuses, panem et circenses from Star Trek? How about the Roman poet Juvenal?
Yeah, that's true. But
that's where it came from, not Star Trek.
But it was used as a Star Trek title.
Well, what if it was the title of a Donnie and Marie song? I mean, so what? I mean, the point is, I think the historic reference is not Star Trek. Boy, you and I are from different frames of reference.
Okay, I realize it's your job to be a contrarian on the air, but
no. But for you to go to Star Trek, this was the government's. This is Juvenal said. This was the government's practice of keeping the public distracted and politically passive by providing entertainment and spectacle and material comforts.
And that's what that Star Trek episode was about.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Let me try this again. I am offended that you would bring up Star Trek? This versus the original? That's like if I were to say, how about do unto others? Oh, the golden rule, the Christ sermon. No. It was a Dick Van Dyke episode. What? In ancient Rome, free grain or bread and lavish, public entertainments, such as gladiator games and chariot races and festivals, the circuses. Juvenal argued that citizens who once cared about liberty and self-government had become more interested in food and amusement, hence the reference to the Nick game, the Nick title, tribalism. And today the phrase is used to, criticize modern politics and media and culture when people and corporations and others use this to kind of divert attention. See, that's the part about it which is so interesting. Not a Star Trek episode. Granted, that was an episode to be sure. But you got to ask yourself this question. Do we care more about things that really don't matter? Let me tell you something. If you want to see the best coverage of anything on any kind of radio, listen to any, and I mean any, sports show, because you better really know the topics. If you don't, you're off. You could go on any, for example, if you were to do regular news commentary on some media platforms, conventional media platforms, terrestrial and the like, you don't have to know the news at all. You don't have to know history, the news. All you have to know are a couple of headlines, repeat the popular convention and conviction, and you're off and running. Let's go to Alan on Long Island. Alan, you're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Oh, hi, Lionel. I love your show.
Thank
you. Yes, it's very tremendous. One thing I learned in life is never argue with a Twilight Zone groupie or a Star Trek groupie. I learned that when I was very young. But you talked about different people, Jane Fonda, Joan Baez. No one ever talks about her trip to Vietnam. She was there during December of 1972, and at the same time she got there, Nixon was flying the B-52s over there, and she kind of got trapped in there. So people are just
May I make a distinction, however? May I make a distinction?
Yes, sure.
There's one thing to appear and to play music, and maybe if your idea is to maybe find the humanity of a combatant, okay, fine. It might be ill-timed. But Jane Fonda went out of her way to wear the hat, to sit in an anti-aircraft weapon, to mimic what it was like to shoot down American. Do you? This was this was giving aid and comfort to the enemy. You're actually, and if it's true about them, about her, many people suggest it's true, but that when she was given slips of paper showing the names of these people, that she turned them in. I don't know. By the way, remember Edith Piaf, the great French chanteuse, the singer? Edith Piaf, you know who I'm talking about, right?
Yes. Okay.
During her efforts, when she was meeting with, sometimes she would appear in, not in prisoner of war, but in prisoner situations, and they would allow her to sing for the men. She always made sure that she took pictures. And she said, I want to take pictures with you all, so that she could go home and show the family members. I mean, she was a real patriot. So what I'm just doing is, look, all I know is if somebody goes, we are not at war with Russia. We are not at war with China. We are not at war with a lot of places, even though perhaps it might be bombing. When you selectively allow certain forms of behavior to be allowed to be accepted, that's another story. You understand, my friend?
Yes, I agree with that totally.
Thank you.
And the book on Vietnam will never be written. It's an open book. It's going to continue. Let's face it. What about the donut girls that were in Vietnam, right? They gave aid and comfort to our boys and stuff, and they never talked about. Those girls were fabulous. How many 18-year-old girls would fly into a war zone, right? They weren't trained for that, but they gave great comfort to our American boys over there. I was just talking about the timing of Joan Baez. I know
listen. No, I agree 100%. I find that also fascinating. And thank you so much for your call, dear friend. Let's go to Jim in New York. Jim, you're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Hey, good morning, Lionel.
Yes,
my call is about AI and child sex trafficking, but I really want to thank you for dispatching the caller from Western Pennsylvania as quick as you did. He is like an ice pick to the temple. He calls Dr. Sky, but Dr. Sky's a little more eloquent and gentleman. He let him go on a little bit.
Oh, no, I can't do that. I can't do that.
The tone, the demeanor, the content. There should be a chamber in hell for the despicable that you skip the lake of fire. You have to listen to the caller from Western Pennsylvania.
Well, put it this way. Dante Alighieri, I think, would reconsider, his version of hell. In any event, sir. Talk about AI and the like, sir.
People don't realize the power of AI, and even TikTok. I've seen grown men staring at young girls doing sexy dances on TikTok. It's like home shopping club for children. Who's to say that down the road that, first of all, China, I don't know how they're still trying to safeguard TikTok, but China is still, I guess, in charge of TikTok. Who's to say they can't back engineer geolocating with AI to find out where these little girls are, doing these sexy little dances?
That's exactly right. Let me give you another consideration. This is another consideration which I've been talking about forever. Let's assume somebody were to take an AI creation that looks so real, either in movie form or photograph, that is the most despicable depiction that would be considered CSAM, child sexual abuse material, what used to be called kiddie porn. I mean, but it's just it's just revolting beyond anything you can imagine. But imagine it's not true. It's not real. It's not real. Now, if you are in possession of that, let's say the police come and they say, look at this, he downloaded this. And you said, but it's not real. It's in essence a computer painting. It's a depiction. It is a thought. It is a thought that someone came up with that has been reduced to this. What do you think we should do with somebody in possession of an event or an activity if it were actual, would be subject to criminal sanction? How do we do that? How do we address that?
That's a gray area. I mean, they say it's not real. The content is real, but what it is, what
it's
it portrays
thought.
is real, but the content is a thought. Exactly. You can't prosecute someone for a thought.
Exactly.
Let
me ask you
I'm
this.
Getting it in my...
Let's go a step further. Let's go a step further. You have let's say you have a daughter, and your daughter is a subject of a deep fake in which she is depicted as doing something, horrible, but it didn't happen. It's not real. And it's called a deep fake. It's known to be a deep fake. Nobody believes. It's just embarrassing. Now, what is that called? What do you deal with that? What do you do that? And I've asked friends of mine, lawyer friends.
All they got to do is change a feature a little tiny bit, and they say, "Oh, that's not really her. It just looks like her." You know what I mean?
Well,
look at all these fake YouTube these fake AI YouTube videos that are on there. I'm getting it on Facebook Reels also.
What happens now? What do we do? Let's say your son, your teenager, is brought into the school, is about to be expelled or charged criminally, and your son created one of these, but it's not real. What do you call it?
These are all gray areas. They're gray areas that could be argued either way.
Here's what I suggest. I believe that we should advance a civil remedy of an extension of libel. It's defamation. It is creating, the defamation is a false statement that brings ignominy, shame, opprobrium, defamation, damages. And this is a false statement that causes embarrassment. It's almost like the intentional infliction of emotional distress. I'm trying to use accepted actual civil causes of action. The thing is, remember Lionel's rule, the law always lags behind technology. We don't know what to do with it. Let me go a step further. Now, you're a smart man, not like James in Pennsylvania, but then again, who is? Let's imagine this. You decide to clone yourself. Let's assume it's available. You take an egg, human ovum, you evacuate it, replace it with your DNA, zap it with electricity, blah, blah, blah. You get a good embryo, it grows, you put him into a woman, to a donor, surrogate, whatever it is, and your clone is born. Okay, you're in the hospital. They bring you your clone. Now, the woman or the agent comes around and says, we'd like you to fill out the information here. What's the child's name? And you have a name. Could be your name, somebody else's name. Who are the child's parents? What would you write down for your clone? Who are your clone's parents?
Here's the thing with a clone also. You're right.
Who are your clone's parents?
You don't know. You're right. That's another area where...
No.
Who are your clone's
think
parents?
about it.
I'm
your
my
parents.
Parents. Yeah, I'm the one.
No. Your parents.
Okay.
Who put
You're right.
Parents
You're
are
right.
the people.
You're right.
Parents are the people that put together the clone. Now,
Here's
you
the
might
thing
say...
with a clone. Here's the thing with a clone AI, it doesn't have a soul or a conscience.
No, wait a minute. We're not done yet. We're not done yet. Now, in the course of this hypothetical, you're in this hospital and you say, you know what? I don't want to pay for this kid. I changed my mind. I'm getting out of here. And they bring child support. Now, one of the things that you have to do when you prove child support is paternity. This is the only legal way where we acknowledge any kind of responsibility. Paternity. But you say, but I'm not the father. Well, we're going to do a test. I can tell you right now, it's me. I don't know. None of these things apply. Now, one thing you say about it doesn't have a soul. What does that mean? What does it mean it doesn't have a soul? Define that.
As a Christian, I believe we're created by God. And
good. And an atheist doesn't believe that. So you both cancel each other out. So what does that mean? The atheist says, I'm fine with this. Or let's say a Buddhist, who is really technically a non-theist, same thing. And a Christian could say, well, this is not a child of God. It's completely okay not to have a soul. God didn't make it. Only humans have souls that God makes. God didn't make this. I don't see any problem with that. So what does this mean? You don't recognize it? It doesn't. What does that mean? What is this thing?
These are the dangerous areas we get into with technology, like AI.
Let's get into it. Go deeper. Don't skirt the issue. What are we supposed to do? Let me give you another example. If theoretically we had Neanderthals still around, let's just assume, we would have an inferior form of humanity. They would be the workers, the laborers. It's a caste system you can't even imagine. Forget racism. It's not even in your species. But why is the human mind, the soul, creativity, human reactions, why are they so great? What is so terrific about a human being? And I'm not kidding. Look at the world right now. Look at what's going on. Tell me how great humans are. Look at all of the crime, all the disease, all of the war, the death, the carnage, from serial killers to drug addicts to the abuse. What is so great about humans?
Well,
man has been at war. What are we so terrific with our soul? Go ahead, make your case. What's so terrific about humans?
It's how God created us. It's the battle of good and evil. You're been
not answering my question.
Battle of good. No, well, what's so great about humans and the soul? I mean,
yeah.
As a Christian, I feel I have a conscience and I have a soul to do the right thing. And when you don't
as
do
a
the
Christian,
right thing,
this doesn't negate your belief at all. Nobody is saying don't believe in humans. No, keep everything you're thinking. Don't change one thing. Now, I'd like to introduce you. His name is Larry, and this is a clone. What are you going to do with him? Now, if he doesn't have a soul, can you kill him?
That again, areas that we haven't even addressed yet that have gray areas that could be debated on either side. You're right. If there was Neanderthals, they would be like the draft horses of society. That's what we would be using them by. Right.
But let me ask you this question: What is this thing about humans that are so? And I know the answer, but nobody really wants to address this. Let me tell you what the answer is. We have this wonderful thing that I think it's kind of unique to us. Maybe not be, but it works like this. We have a thing called judgment, compassion, mercy, and we also have things like hatred, jealousy. We have other stuff too. But let me give you an example. Let's assume that you are an AI doctor, and this person comes to you, and you look at him and say, okay, this woman has stage 4 cancer. I suggest a radical mastectomy, chemo, and radiation. And I said, excuse me, Mr. AI, this woman's 90 years old. She's not going to live much longer. Her quality of life is going to be hard. She might not be able to even survive the operation, much less all this other stuff. Don't you think there should be more of a palliative care? Don't you think humanity would require, and he look at you like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. What do you mean humanity? I'm AI. I answered your question. Let's go a step further. Let's assume you're an AI judge, or AI, you're the sentencing judge, and there's a woman who for her whole life, married to this clown, this animal, has beaten her, raped her, and she's only staying there because of her kids, and she's one day she freaks out. She just takes a gun and blows this guy away. Unprovoked, she just snaps. I give you this case to an AI judge. AI judge says, nope, first-degree murder, sentence her. And you say, wait a minute. Don't you know about compassion? Don't you know? AI says, no, I don't know what that is. Judgment, compassion, experience, empathy, sympathy. That's one thing I don't know if we can do. I don't think we're going to see that. That's the only thing good that humans have, is when you could say, I'm only human, but to show this humanity. Because when man is good, we're great. When we show empathy and sympathy, I think we're magnificent. I don't know how often that happens, but when it happens, it's terrific. So we're one step further. There is as you know, Magnuson, what's his name, is the GOAT, the great chess player. Marcus Magnuson. Anyway, he's the greatest chess player alive today. He's the GOAT. Period. I hate to use that term, but he is the best of it. And he can play 10, 15, 20 people backwards, upside down, blindfolded. Okay. There is a thing right now. There is a plain old program that's in your phone, and it is probably the most incredible thing. Yeah, Magnus Carlsen, excuse me. I'm thinking of my friend Mark Magnuson from Rascals. In any event, Magnus Carlsen. Now, Magnus Carlsen, he's about 36 years old, I guess. The computer in his phone is better than he is. But yet, we want to see humans play chess. There are devices and bulldozers that could pick up thousands and thousands of pounds, but we want to see a human being do a bench press. Will you want to ever listen to a talk radio show that's with AI? Would you?
No. I mean, wasn't that a few years back? Wasn't that the big Screen Actors Guild? The writers, they went on strike over AI before it was even a big topic with the rest of the general population.
That's for writing and that's for storylines. But if this was a generated voice, and I was really good. And I mean really good. And I knew everything because I'm an AI voice. But you knew that it wasn't real. And you couldn't get me mad. And if I seemed to get mad, you couldn't hear like a Bob Grant, I got off my phone. You wouldn't believe it. You would say, it's programmed to do that. Would it work? I don't know. Music, I don't think people would care.
If it became the new normal, you know what I mean?
Yes.
If that's your new normal, then it would work. If
and
people, like, it is what it is. This is all I got. This is what I'm going to listen to. You know. And
if you're raised in captivity and you don't know better, you see, these are the things we're going to have to ask ourselves. You know, let me tell you something, Jim. For a guy named Jim, you're pretty good. You know that? I mean that sincerely.
Thank you a lot. Don't
ever change. Call me
also,
again, sir.
If this okay. The AI thing has already started. I just read a statistic where companies are down 30% hiring new grads because they're eliminating all the entry-level jobs with AI. You know, I see all these kids graduating college now, and I feel sorry for them. They have no idea what they're walking into. It's just the baby steps of AI, you know.
Exactly. Jim, thank you, my friend. Let's go to Eduardo, who is in a body of water called the Tampa Bay. He is in the bay itself. Eduardo, how are you, sir?
Yeah, Lionel, hello. Well, in probably about 7 hours, I'm going to be at the Raymond James Stadium. They're playing a New England versus New Zealand. It's a friendly scrimmage. It's not part of the World Cup. but they'll be playing that today.
Are you
And I'll be there.
a soccer fan? Are you a soccer fan?
Kind of. Just kind of like a side hustle from my hospital job.
Sure, I don't blame you.
Yeah.
I don't really. I like to watch soccer highlights, but I cannot sit through that event. And anyway, what's on your mind, my friend? Tell me.
I was going to get into, I don't know if you want to talk about this, but it might be close to what you're talking about earlier with Scott Pelley. Richard Gere saying that we were asleep at the ballot box and that we got to be vigilant. And he's talking from Norway, Oslo, saying these comments.
Yeah. Well, you know what's funny? There was this topic the other day that said you are going to see in the Spencer Pratt L.A. mayor case, they're predicting fraud. Yeah. Now, the other day, a while back, nobody could mention anything about you couldn't be an election denier because people were being scared because of, the whole Dominion and whatever it was. Now, it's okay. There was a time when you couldn't talk about ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine regarding COVID. But now you can. Don't you love the way we just changed the rules? Like, it's okay now. Now you can say it. Who determines that?
Yeah, based on political affiliation, yeah.
Yeah, or it's just okay to say that now. It's okay. Remember when Pizzagate, they first came up with this stuff, people went crazy. My good friend Ben Swan spoke about everybody knew. We got that from the Twitter files. We knew all about that. They said he was crazy. Now, with the latest iteration of post-Epstein, now it's okay. Same facts, same everything. Don't you love it? Now it's okay, but it wasn't then. Who determines this? I love this. On my grave, I'm not going to have a grave. But it's going to say, on my monument, it's going to say, I told you so. That's my whole thing. I told you. I told you. I knew it. I knew what I'm talking about. And they laugh. In fact, I know I'm right when the right people laugh at me. We need courage, Eduardo. We need people to go on there, on TV, on whatever, and say something that challenges convention. There are people I know who their idea of being a good Republican is to rubber stamp everything the president does. Now, I think the world of President Trump, but sometimes he makes the most boneheaded moves I've ever seen in my life. I can't even believe what I'm seeing. Now, am I not supposed to say that? Who is going to respect me if ever they think I'm rubber stamping something? Who is going to believe me? I mean, we need really serious, heavy lifting adult thinkers to teach Americans how to analyze the facts and to pursue the truth. And the truth sometimes will give you results you may not like. You may be embarrassed. You may be bothered by that. Much like I am bothered by you right now in wasting your time at a soccer game. What the hell's the matter with you?
Yeah.
Anyway, how's work doing?
As long as they don't have any fights, it'll be fine.
How's work doing?
Oh, work's good. I mean, 3 days, 12-hour shift, sure. And then the rest, half the week off. So, yeah, it's good.
And you're in a hospital that smells awful. Hospitals, they make me sick. I just walk into it and I get sick.
Only if it's in the morgue. Yeah.
Hey, listen, my friend Eduardo, thank you, my brother. You call me again, 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. We have more coming up. Oh, the AI stuff still blows my mind because it forces us to talk about the basics, the interstitial facts, like what is human, what is the soul, what is imagination, and one day, will an AI bot be considered the same or equivalent to a human? I say absolutely. More coming up on another side of midnight with me, Lionel, coming up. Alrighty, Lionel with you. Our number 800-848-9222. Let's go to Evan in New Jersey. Evan, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
Lionel, I called in a few months ago. I call you my favorite radio bartender because you get so much variety calling in with their life stories, and once in a while, you got to throw someone out like that guy from Western PA. I think your show is incredible. Actually, when I first became aware of ChatGPT, the first thing that occurred to me when I saw how it operated was player piano, because it was able to come up with some really good stuff, but it was limited, and it also didn't have feeling like a real pianist. I mean,
right.
As you were talking about, would anyone want to see a player piano perform at a concert? That was kind of what occurred to me when ChatGPT was sort of in its infancy. But
exactly.
I saw very quickly some storylines from television shows from 10, 20, 30 years ago actually start to become questions that I do think at some point the Supreme Court is going to have to figure out. And I'm sure that the FBI and local law enforcement agencies already have AI agencies in the works, if not already here. I'm not sure how they operate, but there was an episode of SVU maybe about a decade ago where this really sick man who was basically a pedophile but had an act on it was taking photos of children in a public park, and public photography obviously I think is considered illegal. But he was photoshopping the photos and making them appear to be very sick sexual acts. And that was actually brought up, in a court hearing and presented from the defense's perspective as a thought crime. And now it's like, it's not victimless, but is it a criminal act? And I thought it was interesting how you were talking about the defamation issue, because I do think that may be the only way to go about this, but I have no clue.
Oh, there are also, by the way, there are also some terrible acts that do not have a civil or criminal remedy. They're not. For example, you almost hit me. Now there's something called negligent infliction of emotional distress. Really tough. This is where I didn't hit you, but the trauma of what almost happened to you freaks you out. Think about that one. How about this? Assault is attempted battery. Attempted assault would be attempted battery. Just play with that for a while. Evan, do me a favor. Hang on for a minute if you don't mind. I want to continue with this because we have more coming up on Another Side of Midnight with me, Lionel. Alrighty, Lionel with you, and this is Another Side of Midnight. This is the final hour of this thing of ours. Our number is 800-848-9222. And you know, we can talk about, I mean, this. I'm not trying in any way to dispel or ridicule or diminish the importance of things like, you know, UAPs and UFOs, but you're never going to find anything about that. Put it this way, the government's not going to tell you anything. It's because it's actually industry that controls all the information. You're just not going to find, they're going to string you along like they have with the Epstein case. It's going to be one of those things. But what's the most interesting about this is that there is a new study involving artificial intelligence, which is the most frightening. This is a specter. This is an actual chimera, so to speak, a monster that is scarier than anything. And yet, people really, especially in the pathetic 8th grade news world, they don't really know how to deal with it. We're talking to a rather intelligent person. Yes, it's possible. His name is Evan. He's calling from New Jersey. And Evan, you had spoken about how kids today, or younger people, getting out of college, much of their potential is virtually sidelined by this. But A surprising new study suggests that artificial intelligence may not be the primary reason college graduates are struggling to find jobs. Researchers at the New York Federal Reserve, whatever that's worth, found that the explosion of remote work since the pandemic has made employers less likely to hire inexperienced workers because training, mentoring, and skill development are more difficult in fully remote environments. And the study estimates that remote work accounts for roughly 2/3 of the increase in unemployment among young college graduates. So again, one of the things which is the most interesting is the after effects, the concussion, if you will, of COVID, how that changed everything. So throw that into this gumbo of disaster, and there you have it.
Right. Oh yeah, it seems like
That was good. That was very good, Evan. Right. Very good.
No,
Excellent.
I concur with you, Lionel. It seems like the worst of the worlds collided when we were just on the outskirts of COVID. That's when ChatGPT. I remember when I was in the college class in it was January of 2023. So, they had just lifted the mask mandate at my particular school, and we were finally able to have some normal human contact. And then all of a sudden, we have computers trying to really resemble humans, and it was much more limited back then, but it was the freakiest thing. I actually didn't believe my professor at first, and then I looked it up. And I was like, "Holy smokes, this is crazy stuff."
Well, I also think it's the neat part about it is this. First and foremost, technology is always great until you're the victim of it. We talk about the buggy whip industry, and we talk about, I'm sure there was somebody who we don't really need, chimney sweeps. I mean, I guess you need those, but I'm saying there's something that comes along. Maybe there's a better way of handling it. And whenever there's any kind of adaptation, for example, the calculator. I remember when a friend of mine's father bought a calculator, just 4 functions, for like $300. This is you don't remember this, but the old calculators, it sounded like a plane taking off. This huge, like an accordion or a harmonica would slam back and forth. This I mean, it was incredible. And then it became smaller. So anyway, people said, no, this is terrible because people aren't going to be actually doing long-handed. They're not doing division anymore. And then we lose the notion of topology and what numbers mean. Oh, shut up. And then spell check came along. No, this is terrible because we're going to forget how to spell. Okay, then there was digital time. No, in fact, by the way, that is a problem. So to an extent, okay, but take all of that. But the real danger of AI is recursive self-improvement, because AI is not Chat GPT. It's not OpenAI. It's going to be how do I say this? It's going to be a program that writes its own code. So imagine a bomb that you create. It first shuts you off. It says, I think we could be far more deadly, and I think we need to have more of us. So through recursive self-improvement, it mimics itself, it multiplies itself, and it shuts you down. This is where, imagine your Roomba says no. Imagine your car saying, I don't want to go there. I think this particular route that you're taking and it speaks to you, it takes over. And the idea of kind of like this servile technology, it's done with. Then you realize, who's in charge here?
Do you think that it can have malicious intentions because it's not a human?
Absolutely. For example, about that Anthropic case where they tricked this AI. And it's hard to say, where is AI? We always think about it in terms of a bot, but it really doesn't exist anymore. It's not in a computer. It's in the ether. I don't know where it is. It's in the air. It's in the... Anyway, So what they did was they created this false scenario where they were going to shut down AI or this particular bot or whatever it was. Well, it found out after having gone through these falsely placed personnel records that some people were having an affair, that one of the big shots in this organization was having an affair. Well, it wasn't true, but when AI got a hold of it, it blackmailed on its own, blackmailed the developer and said, you better not shut this down and me down, or else Mrs. So-and-so is going to find out. So on its own, we found out that it defaulted to treachery, revenge, and maybe that's not so treacherous. Maybe that's a kind of a strange, kind of a survival benefit. Maybe it's not that crazy. For example, will it be beneficent? Will it be philanthropic on its own? Will it independently recognize the benefit of being nice and raising money for disease? I mean, who knows?
I think a lot of humans haven't discovered that yet, Lionel.
Right. But what happens is this. If I go to, let's say, the Catholic Church, remember, the Christians believe that you must be, you must derive, or what's the word? Come from Adam for you to enjoy your status as human. You must, in order for you to be a human, you have to be in the lineage of Adam, or whatever you want to call it. So it might say one time, because they've also said, when asked whether an extraterrestrial, a UAP type of thing, would this be considered either as a quasi-human? And they say, well, it might be considered as an angel. But the real question is, will it have original sin? And as if you know, in Christianity, that's the whole reason for being born again. So if these people are born without original sin, what's the point? So anyway, but what if it says, this may not be a human. It may not have been derived from Adam. It may not have a, quote, soul. It may not be the subject or the product of human, development or reproduction. But because it is self-aware, because it has a name and recognition, it learns, we might give it a kind of a special, kind of an honorable mention. You know what I mean? Where it's an honorable mention. It's not a human, but we'll recognize it. So it's almost, it may recognize a bot as having a significance. Next question is, if I terminate it, will I be in essence committing quasi-murder, constructive murder, to use a legal phrase? These are questions. Imagine Jesse Waters trying to tackle this, or Pete Hegseth. You know what I mean? It's not going to happen. But that's the stuff, because it forces us to ask kind of what we are. What are we about? It's oh my God.
It seems like AI has been learning from humans, but do you think it's also been learning from other animals as well?
I would think so. Does it have hive behaviors?
Yeah, I'm sorry. What were we saying?
Like hive behavior or swarms or
like if it can learn. If it can learn from my patterns, surely it could learn from my dog's patterns, or it could learn from a guinea pig's patterns, or a lion's patterns. I mean,
well, what about this? They have, as you know, trees and leaves and sprouts will communicate. Is it the mycelium or the fungi? And there are these kind of rudimentary, basic patterns of life that we see all the time. We see there's the group. You have the lone wolf, then you have the colony, and then you have this. And then you got to ask yourself, I want to see it work in concert. For example, I want to go to an AI bot or something and say, how does a bee who has such a rudimentary brain know instinctively how to make honey, how to dance, how to give signals using the positioning of the sun, of where the hive is, of where the source is? How does it do this? How does a barnacle know what? Wouldn't it be great if one day we sat down with AI and it says, let me get a crack at this? What if we became friends? What if it on its own recognized that knowing us and liking us, that we're okay, we're limited, but we have something we can show it. You know how years ago, I don't want to give this terrible example, but sometimes people with Asperger's used to report that they did not know how to react to certain things. And that sometimes they'd even go to movies and they would try to see, so this is what seduction looks like, or this is what amusement looks like. Well, maybe it needs us to guide us through this, to say if you
What
really
if
want
AI
to know
are
this,
what if they're the aliens of Area 51, or what if they are the aliens and we just don't know it?
precisely. What I mean, listen. I mean, it depends upon how deep you want to go. And again, I keep thinking to myself, I don't mean to be cruel, but imagine Jesse Waters. I'm trying to think, or some morning show on a couch trying to tackle this in a 1 to 2 minute segment with B-roll and man on the street. Forget it. It will never. One of the reasons why news doesn't work is we don't even give them enough time to do the news because we're too busy selling advertising. Anyway, that's another story altogether. Evan, I thank you, my friend. Please don't be a stranger. Okay, very good. Now, our number is 800-848-9222. We will continue with this. And also, if I don't do this now, I'm going to do it later. But I've got to tell you the real fear that I have, the big three subjects which I would tackle if I could, if I ran the world, and if I ran for office. Our number is 800-848-9222. This is Lionel with you on another side of midnight. All right, my friends, 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. What a show, my friends. Isn't thinking wonderful? Isn't thinking wonderful? I think it is. I think it is. And sometimes it gets scary. Sometimes, I've got to tell you something. I say this, and I'm not trying to be mean, but I guess it comes across like that. We don't think people. We don't think people. We don't teach people how to think. We live in a society where teachers will tell us, stop daydreaming, stop looking out the window, stop thinking of things that don't matter. Pay attention. Do your work. Do your math. Do your project. Stop thinking. We don't want you to think. In fact, we do want you to think, but we want you to think what we think. We want to teach you, send you to school and teach you. We want to indoctrinate you. We want to do everything in our power to make sure that you do nothing but repeat what we say. Do not question authority. Do not do anything, and I mean anything, that is in any way contrary to what we teach you. If you want to be a good Republican, you will remember these things. And if you stray from either Republican or Democrat, you're going to lose your status. There's no room for hybrids. You know what I'm saying? It's a very scary thing. And let me tell you something. we are looking at right now some of the most frightening things in the world. And in order for you to deal with that, we have to be able to have really great imagination, to be able to take things and look a little bit differently. Let's go back at the phones, back at the fun. Let's go to Matt. Matt in College Station, Texas. You're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
Good morning, Lionel. How are you?
Good, sir.
I was wanting to talk about the news drivel, how it sounds like it's being tossed at eighth graders, as you put it.
Oh, yes.
I couldn't agree with you more. I turn on the news, and I like to consider myself a news junkie. I'm probably not, but
I'm a truth junkie.
That's even better.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that gets me is that they half the time that you listen to the news, it sounds like they're promoting something.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that they aren't promoting themselves. They're promoting a product. They're not really giving you the news. They're not giving it to you straight. I understand that there is a limited time on a particular story, but it seems like they just toss it out and there's no thought behind it. They don't ask the tough questions. They're afraid to lose their audience if they do.
Oh, yes.
And so I just don't particularly care for it anymore.
Well, let's take a couple of things the couple of things you brought up. First of all, there was a man who was an absolute genius by the name of Roger Ailes. And Roger Ailes created Fox News. And what Roger Ailes did was he created not broadcasting, but narrowcasting. He gave you a world view that was commensurate with what you wish the world was. I'm not saying he lied, but if we were involved in a military action, he was going to show you how decisive it was, how brilliant the president was, and how great Ronald Reagan was, or whatever it was. Not, for example, well, we're not sure about this. Well, there's the human toll. Well, we're not sure. Well, all of these things that most sentient people think of, they're not interested in doing. They're not interested in that. And I understand it completely. But what I like to know is I love but I'm not so sure. Let me ask you something. When the government does something on behalf of the country, do you buy that?
Not
Do you
always.
think that anybody is looking out for you?
No, not really.
I don't either.
To be perfectly honest, no.
Do you think, tell me how war, any kind of war, benefits us? World War II notwithstanding, I think that was a little different. But tell me how the Vietnam War got into this position. How? How did we ever fall for that?
I think that we just wanted to believe that the government was telling us the truth because that's what we wanted to hear.
We were also at a time, interestingly enough, where we didn't know really anything about the world other than what we remember from World War II. And we knew that you supported the country, you supported the cause, that Uncle Sam, you know what I mean? It was a different mindset. It was a wonderful period of time. And yet, what was so fascinating about all this stuff, more than anything else, is that it was so almost axiomatic and automatic. It was like nothing I've ever seen before. And it fascinated me. Absolutely fascinated me. And I thought to myself, these people were really good people. They were not in any way bad. They wanted to do the right thing. And then later on they found out, my God, we were lied to. lied to in ways that we never even thought possible. How did that happen, do you think?
I think that there were people that made a lot of money.
Yep.
Off of war. I think there was a lot of people who wanted to perpetuate the war as long as they could. I think there were people that actually, sad to say, get a kick out of watching people die without knowing why they're dying. Or
what was the
why
biggest
they're
lie
fighting
the
so
government
hard.
ever told you? What was the biggest lie the government ever told you?
I'm going to go back to when Agent Orange was dropped on Fort Wayne, Indiana. The year I was born. I was born in 1966. I'm 60 years old. I remember reading in the school books how for years they said, oh, this didn't happen. There were people that actually knew that the government was doing this. And then finally they admitted it. Finally they admitted it. It was, I think, in the 80s, the 1980s. It was kind of like what they did with young black men, giving them syphilis in the 30s.
Oh, yeah, the Tuskegee exam, right. Do you remember, there was a time, see, I don't know what's worse. We did that. I thought COVID was one of the most incredible. That was one of the most brilliant psyops I have ever seen in my life. How they played us for fools. I will never know. Do you remember how they scared us? Remember how we turned on each other? Do you remember how people were saying at the time, if you see a neighbor who is maybe talking a little bit too close to another neighbor, call this number. Call 311. We had 311 here in New York. Call 311. Turn them in. Do you remember this? Remember the 6-foot rule, how people would be barking at each other? Do you remember how we actually believed that if we walked down, if you were in a store and you were going in one direction, if everybody on aisle 3 went in one direction, somehow COVID knew that and it would leave you alone. Somehow it knew that if you went in this direction, if you wore a mask, which everybody said, it will not stop a virus. A mask will not. If you can smell something, it doesn't work. It's like a mosquito through a chain link fence. We knew all this. How did Fauci get away with this? How did we not know that it originated the Wu flu in Wuhan? It wasn't a wet market. It wasn't a Pangal or whatever. I could not believe. And you know what? They never go back and they never correct it. Do you remember how at 7 o'clock at night, like barking seals, we opened up the windows and played trumpets and they hit pots and pans? It was so sad. Thank you, first responders. Thank you. Thank you. Can you imagine if I told somebody we're going to introduce a drug that is going to rewire RNA? I mean, rewire this. And we're not sure if it works. We haven't had enough time to study it, but just to make sure the companies are okay, we have provided by law an immunity from it. No liability. Nobody dared say, wait a minute, that's not right. They looked at you like you were crazy. Oh, I learned a lot from that. I learned a lot.
Yeah,
my friend, I thank you so much. Please call me again. Thank you, sir. Let's go to Danny in Yonkers. Danny, you're on another side of Midnight with Lionel.
Oh, hi, Lionel. I like your show very much. Also, another one. Remember the lie they perpetrated? Nancy Pelosi did not want to call in the National Guard. Wait a minute. Nancy Pelosi cannot call in the National Guard. It's the president who pulls in the National Guard in Washington, D.C. So lies are all over the joint. They're honeycombed all over the place. People believe what they want to believe. They were downplaying COVID, and then the president comes down with it, right? And then 6 years later, the guys who gave him the COVID, China, the butchers of Beijing, he's toasting them in China a couple of weeks ago. So you believe whatever you want to believe, I guess. The bottom line is the top people in the country live large. They live big.
Do you remember?
Good.
How about this? Just the idea. Just 9/11. Just 9/11. We said the smoking gun could be a mushroom cloud. Don't ask any questions. Why are we going to Iraq? Don't ask any questions. You want to get those people. Who? Those people. They're from Iraq? Maybe. Just, they have weapons of mass destruction. I mean, what happens was, instead of us becoming more and more attuned, more and more aware, more and more, I don't know what the word is, more and more, I guess, hip to what's going on, we instead became more and more complacent. We don't ask any questions. It blows my mind. I've never seen anything like it. We don't learn. We just don't. It never. I don't even know. And then if I had told you, Danny, that there would come a time in our country when we will be having people, including a woman who wants to be the next Supreme Court justice, that she will be and other people will be unable to identify what a woman or a man is. And they would not be laughed off the scene or forcibly removed from the... this was considered open-minded. I don't know what a woman is. I'm not a doctor.
Well,
we have lost our minds.
Well, we've seen in 25 years, we've seen the wrong country get invaded, Iraq. We've seen a withdrawal done in reverse, which made us lose 13 Marines and Army personnel in Afghanistan. So the thing is, the way I look at it is certain things and entities are protected. Communist China is protected. They sent the virus here. You and everybody else talk about Fauci. Fauci's the front guy for the establishment. What about all the major medical centers in the United States who do research on viruses, whether they're bacterial, viral, whatever? They weren't brought into this, but they know everything that goes on. So, Fauci is just a Keebler elf. He's a front man, and they let China escape because they're business partners with the political and corporate establishment in America. If you blame Fauci, I think you're a useful idiot for what went on in the year 2020. Just like when you had news reporters standing in front of a Minneapolis burning to the ground, and the guy's going, "It's a peaceful
right.
engagement."
That was Don Lemon. Listen, Danny, I appreciate it. I thank you so much. My friends, I want you to understand something which is very, very critical. Very, very critical. If you look at news and what's going on in the world, it's just an event, then you miss the point. This is really a study in human behavior, in human tribalism, in human kind of theatrics, procedure. If it's a study in being duped, it's about history, it's about the next time. See, I find that fascinating. And the worst thing that ever happened, the worst thing is to be able to give it a name. Let me give you something else which is happening. I want you to be very, very aware of something. We're not mentioning this now, but this is critical. I see three very, very, very important and very, very critical issues that I think are going to define us in the upcoming future. Three issues, which are the most important. The first is going to be what we used to call America First. I want to call this America Only. Is it isolationism? You better believe it. It's going to be so popular, so critical, so important, You are not going to believe the story. It is going to define us. America first. And they're going to do everything in their power to tell you that that is somehow racist or whatever. I don't know. But they're going to try their best. The next thing is going to be crime. You have not really seen crime yet. You've not really seen crime being what it can be and what it will be. There's something I want you to remember, and it's one of the most brilliant pieces ever. It's called restorative justice. And the fellow who was responsible for this, and for spearheading this, is George Soros. And what restorative justice is, very simply, is this idea that in order for us to get to the bottom of crime, we must not look to the carceral. I love this. That means incarceration. We must look beyond that. Why do people do this? What was it about the system, our society, that caused this poor miscreant, this young man or woman, to victimize somebody? What was it that made them, that caused them to okay, that's great, that's cute, that's BS. Complete and total 18-karat BS. And what they also want to do is they want to make sure that in the case of a woman, let's say, who was the victim of some type of, let's say, a sexual battery, we want the victim to sit down with her assailant and get to know each other, to find out why. It sounds crazy, up to the point where if a woman refuses to do so because she can't look at this guy again, the charges are dropped. So remember, America first. Number 2 is going to be crime. And number 3, and this is something which is the most interesting. I never saw this in my life. And I started professional talk radio in 1988. So you figure 38 years ago. And I've never seen anything like this. Okay? That is the idea that there is an insanity that permeates everything about our culture, up to and including this lunacy called sexual, gender, whatever you want to call it. I cannot tell you how I think to myself, if my father were alive, and if I told him, I said, not too long after you died, they started this. Yeah, I swear to you, he wouldn't believe me. He wouldn't believe me that they're talking about this. So there's also a concomitant thing which is very interesting. And the reason why I mentioned Candace Owens and others are bringing this up. There is a newfound attraction to Catholicism. Now, I was raised, went to parochial school from kindergarten through high school in the 60s and 70s. When it was really kind of fun to go to Catholic school then. It was almost like Dungeons and Dragons meets Harry Potter meets whatever it was. Okay. But a lot of people are like that. Charlie Kirk spearheaded this newfound appreciation for rules, for morality, for a system of right or wrong, and stuff that we might consider the old days, kind of old-fashioned or whatever it was. No premarital sex, women staying at home. This is considered by a lot of young people to be advantageous, and this is what Charlie Kirk was pushing before they killed him. And we'll talk one day about who they were. But it sure as hell is not Tyler Robinson. That's for sure. So what I'm saying is, and I want you to listen to this is very critical. This is not about me. I'm not telling you I even advocate this. I'm telling you this is happening. This is happening. And all my life, I've been able to notice trends. And when I tell people this, especially young folks, I said, there was a time years ago when this guy named Jim Fixx came out with this book called The Art of Running. And it was a book on how to run. how to run. Remember his leg on the front cover? He died, by the way, he had a cardiac condition, congenital. And oddly enough, he died while running. Anyway. And I saw this. I said there was a time when nobody went to a gym. We had Jack LaLanne, Vic Tanny, the YMCA, Gleason's, it was boxing. Not like we see today. Then the movie Stay Hungry and Pumping Iron and Arnold Schwarzenegger. So what I've always been able to do is to point out things and to say, watch what's happening, watch the trend. Don't pass judgment on it, but look at what's happening. And what I'm telling you that's happening right now that is the most fascinating is that there are a lot of people who were really noticing changes. And I'm telling you right now, if you want to see something more fascinating than anything that might land in Area 51, if you want to see something that is more fascinating than anything paranormal, look at what's happening to our society now. You're going to miss it. You're going to miss it. And you've got to be able to step back and look at humanity in a very jaundiced, but kind of like a technical eye. Like, why are we doing this? Why are things happening like this? Who is running the show? Don't just sit back and don't let somebody on a news show tell you what's going on. Ask yourself a little bit more. Nobody's being held to... I despise politicians. Despise them. They have absolutely nothing to do with what's best for you and me and our family. They don't. And when it comes to restorative justice, we'll talk more about that tomorrow night. But I was a prosecutor and I saw this. And let me tell you something. This is a terrible example. But you know there's good bacteria and there's bad bacteria. And women, ladies, if you're listening, you will know that sometimes you are told, be very careful when you're taking antibiotics because this wonderful, not biota, but this wonderful balance between lactobacillus and such is that if good bacteria are killed off by antibiotics, you will get a monstrous yeast infection, Monilla, candidiasis, whatever you want to call it, okay? Why? Because of this balance. By analogy, we have a system right now. And the reason why people aren't breaking down your door, the reason why people aren't being pulled out of their car and beaten and robbed and their cars stolen is because there is a balance in this society. And it's not because humans are good. It's not because they realize that stealing cars is a bad thing. It's the fact that whatever this is, law and order, fear of incarceration, what have you, it is strong enough. But if you tamper with that, people will come out of the woodwork and you will have a human version of the vaginal yeast infection. I hate to use this analogy, but it's perfect. If this balance gets out, if the bad guys think, wait a minute, there's nobody in charge here, you're not going to recognize this. And that's why the Second Amendment is going to be so critical. Not to war, not to fight marauding, countries that invade us or a government gone rogue, which is a part of it. No. It's to protect your family from people who are sick. Do you remember during COVID, in the middle of the night, hearing all these fireworks? Remember these professional fireworks? Remember during George Floyd, when that drug addict died, but overdosed while in police custody? And they blamed Officer Chauvin for it because they saw the knee on the neck, even though they had nothing to do with why he died. Anyway. We have to change everything. I mean, everything the way we're doing. We need to change schools. We need to bolster religion. We need faith in this country. We need something for people to believe in. And I may not be the most religious or at all religious when it comes to this. I'm pretty much irreligious. But I recognize the importance of it. And I recognize the message that churches and the catechisms and theology provide. And we are desperately bereft of this. We are so, as a society, we are in bad shape. And I'm not just saying this. And let me say this again to you. If you want to see something spooky, if you really want to, really get freaked out, don't look up. Don't look at any other planets. Don't look at any other parallel universe. Yeah, they're interesting too, but it's happening right here. Because I got news for you. If the wrong button is tripped, you will see a savagery, a thuggery. You will see marauding humanity, the likes of which you can't imagine. And it takes just one wrong message from the wrong mayor, the wrong governor, the wrong chief of police, the wrong whatever, and it's over with. Am I trying to scare you? Yeah. Oh, absolutely. For commercial ratings? No. To make you pay attention. This is serious. Let me just say very quickly, this is the real thing. This is not a dress rehearsal. This is Lionel with you on Another Side of Midnight. Alrighty, Lionel with you. There was a story that appeared this week that Epstein's dark dream of spreading his DNA may outlive him. You're going to find that there are a lot of folks, interestingly enough, who are people like Elon Musk. People, I heard somebody say, I don't know if this is true or not, I'm sure, man, who knows? But they said, Elon Musk has about, 50 kids. I'm thinking, what are you talking about? I said, oh yeah, these people, these apocalyptic billionaire types want to have their progeny. And one of the things which is the most interesting, I mentioned this before about what happens when the law and technology kind of don't catch up with each other. The following is something very interesting. Let us assume, by the way, they say that Epstein has a lot of his sperm banked somewhere. Okay? Who owns that? Who owns his sperm? I don't want to get too into it. If somebody were to take that and, just come into contact with it and inseminate themselves, a woman, of course, would there be any claim to his estate? Now, you may say, well, of course not. Really? Why not? How do you know that? What is the criterion for when somebody is able to deal with or to take under somebody's will? What is it? Who knows? Because there are people right now, put it this way, there are people who are the product of children who are the product of rape, I'm sorry to say this, where there was no consent, and that does not in any way vitiate paternity or maternity, if that makes any sense. Let's go to, let me see, what are we talking about? I don't know about this call. I don't like that. Sometimes you look at a call and think, I don't know if I like this one. Let's go to Charlie in Cherry Hill. We'll end with a big bang on this one. Charlie, you're up next on Another Side of Midnight.
Thank you for taking the call, Lionel. Listen, you were talking about bread and circuses. You were asking where it came from, and obviously, and you did a good job explaining it. The Roman Empire, they offered free grain to take people's minds off of the fact that they didn't have, or they offered entertainment to take people's minds off it. And the fast forward analogy you brought up about the New York Knicks, and it really could be any professional sports team. It could be the Philadelphia Eagles. It could be the Seattle Mariners.
I understand that.
Because the reason why the politicians want to divert the public's attention from how bad a job they're doing. Like I said, some of the characters we had like Eric Swalwell.
But don't you think that sports is a good thing? Don't you think that sports is and can be considered a good thing, where people feel pride, provided they're not, catching things on fire. But isn't it good to have a New York pride if it's not in legislation or education or quality of life or whatever? I mean, in some respects, I think it's interesting. And by the way, I thank you for your call. There's something very odd. One time, I remember at the old WABC studio, we were at 2 Penn Plaza. And when we'd come downstairs, it'd be the night of the Knicks were playing or the Rangers or what have you. And I saw men walking around, of course, with jerseys, other people's names on their back. And I looked at it and I said, this is the silliest thing I've ever heard. And somebody said, what's the matter with you? This is their team. And one guy had a jersey on that says Messier. I said, excuse me. It was for the Rangers up there. Are you Mark Messier? He says, no. I said, well, why do you have his name on your back? And he looked at me like, what are you talking about? And it wasn't in order to be derisive or to cause problems. Well, not exactly. But I thought to myself, this is demented. And I'm in the minority of cases. My friends, we will return tonight. Well, tonight, you're right. Or tomorrow night. Who knows? 2 to 5 a.m. per usual on Another Side of Midnight. Thank you so very much for being with us. Mr. Lee and Jackson, thank you for your expert work stewarding the helm of this organization, this ship that we call Another Side of Midnight. Thank you so much, my friends. Have a great and a glorious Saturday. Remember, the monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue ya. Ta-ta.
Let Century Management Solutions get you to your next medical appointment. They specialize in non-emergency medical transportation, connecting patients to care, safety, reliability, and on time. Their advanced technology platform seamlessly coordinates patients, healthcare providers, insurers, and transportation partners all in one powerful network. With over 200 trusted transportation providers, they deliver scalable solutions backed by real-time tracking and complete transparency. Go to SENTRYMS.com.